Let me know if you guys come up with any, like, when we watch this video, let me know if you come up with any, like, solid solutions for lane swap. How would you prevent lane swap without making it an explicit thing? So let's check this out and see the vid.
Lane swaps are ruining the esports scene of League of Legends,
Yep.
but their solution to the lane swap meta is actually ruining League of Legends on a fundamental level,
True.
and it's also breaking the game completely. In this video, I will be going through what exactly is going on, how Riot could possibly fix it, and what some high-elo players think about this situation. And did you know that
him.
77% of you have not subscribed? I know that's
me.
crazy. Well,
Wait, no,
if you're part
that's
of the
not me.
77%, please be sure to subscribe. I need
Might
to
be
pay
me.
for my divorce lawyer. If you've been watching League esports for the past year, or you watched Worlds last year, you know that there's this scary tactic that pretty much every single esports team has been abusing. That has also been a pain in the ass in the early days of the esports as well. I'm of course talking about lane swaps. If you don't know what lane swaps are, let me quickly explain to the Iron players and ARAM enthusiasts.
That's
Lane
me.
swapping is basically a strategy that allows the team to funnel gold and XP to champions that otherwise would have a hard time getting those resources. So it basically dodges otherwise extremely hard matchups. For example, if you're picking an ADC that
True.
scales later than the enemy team ADC, swapping lanes and facing the enemy top laner removes the problems with the early game. This also completely shuts down the aspect of counter-picking top laners, because now as a top laner, you have to lane against the enemy bot lane. So it basically destroys counterpicking these lanes in
Zay
general.
Smurf in
Lane
this
swapping
dive.
isn't anything new. We've seen this for like 10 plus years now. Like here,
Bro, I'm so glad he pulled out the fucking CLG EU Moscow 5 matchup. What in the hell? Is this like the... Oh, shit. Is this the game that went like 20,000 gold lead and then CLG made a comeback? Or is it like a later one? May have been a Nivea Krogan. I remember... Oh, dude, these games, they're so fucking fun.
here's for example one iteration of lane swapping way back in 2012 with CLG versus Moscow 5. This is most likely not the first time lane swaps were experimented with, but
Yep.
this was the oldest recording I could find. And they have been coming back in and out of fashion multiple times in the past years. Last year they came back and the tactic was dominating the scene for a good while. Lane swaps was the most used tactic at Worlds as well. But like, what is the big problem with lane swaps then? Isn't it just a tactic that seems to work for the pro teams, and they should do that because, well, that's the best way to win the game, right? Well, I have reasons why lane swaps shouldn't be a thing. 1. Lane swap metas is boring as shit to watch. Because
I don't really watch too much esport, but I think this is the prevailing opinion that I've gathered from the community, essentially. I think most people don't really like watching lane swap because it makes early game kind of a snooze fest. And it doesn't really showcase crazy amount of skill, short of subverting some crazy dive. And even that, it's more so of like a goofy mishap in execution of the diving team, more so than like the outplay, right? So I like that the strategy is a thing. I like that the strategy exists on occasion, but I don't think every game should fit in the category. And then the worst of all, you're playing the game at the start and it's a guessing game. Right, when we played like with Los Ratones for that tournament and we were scrimming and doing that, it's basically a guessing game. You have to look at your comp, their comp, understand if they would want to do it, and then would they do it based on their like ideas in their head. Then you see if you try to match them, you try to gather a bit of info. This also gives me an idea, which I mean, I'm like I think in this video Dums used something like he chat with me about, but. When he asked me, like, I never really thought about this. How would you fix the lane swaps? And I never really thought about it, but it is a difficult solution. I just know it's a very difficult solution because it's you can't really just root it out. And I think the way Riot's going about it is pretty bad. Now that I kind of think about it, I think information gathering, like if we had like if support item could give like vision, like clairvoyance on the map in early game or something, or you could bring back summoner spell clairvoyance. If people don't remember that, you could do that. People would there was this summoner spell clairvoyance which would give you a temporary vision on any part of the map back in the day, and you would do that like on spawn. You would click on the enemy base and you would see where people go and what items they buy, so you can kind of know if they're trying to organize into an invade or whatever, and you see their items. So that was an interesting thing. Back in the day when items were kind of more, they were different. I guess you could pick up many different item versions Unless like it was the boots meta where 5 people go boots, 5 potions. Anyway, I digress. But that's also an interesting idea how to fix it, you know? A little bit of intel gathering tool in early game, but not too abusable that makes the game like super boring. But also, yeah, you gotta worry about that and how that's gonna impact the solo queue, obviously. So you really gotta fine tune this. And I criticized Riot for not being able to find an elegant solution. And you have like dev seniors paid $500,000 in like a year and not being able to find it, which is pretty rough, you know, like the fact that they have to resort to manual hard coding and rooting it out is really, really bad. But just like slapping big circles like on the maps, like you cannot be here. And if you are, it's like we slap experience bonus, we slap damage bonus, we slap defenses bonus, we slap gold bonus. Like you get all the debuffs, they get all the buffs. 1,500 lines of like code, like you know, it's kind of rough. But yeah, let's think about more solutions of which
because it basically makes every single game the same. Top laner can't play the game, gets dove, dies, and he can't farm for the next 10 minutes. And it also makes the top laners not really want to play the game. 2. It basically makes lane swapping a coin flip, because if that is the best tactic, the enemy team also wants to do it, right? But if both teams lane swap, the lane swap technically didn't even happen.
It's like
minus and
poker.
minus.
It's like gambling, you know. If we swap on your swap, we're gonna match. But if you don't swap on a swap that you should swap on, and we do swap, we've swapped ourselves out of a good lane.
Yep.
It's a gamble. It's like in CS when you're defusing the bomb.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I was talking about. It's a guessing game at some point because like there are teams which obviously really want to swap, you know, but they can swap themselves out of a good lane.
Are they defusing it or are they faking? Are they swapping or are they not swapping? You know?
And 3, and I think this is the biggest reason, it creates a big disconnect.
See, like this is the point where the Counter-Strike defusing is a pretty solid. It's a pretty solid example, but I believe in Counter-Strike it kind of works because first of all, it's an end game sort of resolution usually when 1v1s are happening, and it creates this mind game instead of just making a like checkmate scenario, which obviously works. Having lane swap, which are going to dictate the next 30 minutes of the game how they're going to go, making that a bit of a coin flip, it's really, really stupid. Right, so you definitely want to move away from that design.
Between solo queue and regular league versus the esports scene, because now they're technically playing 2 different games. You could also do lane swaps in solo queue, sure.
They do, we do, or we did before, like the things. But yeah, very often in high-low solo queue, you'd see a bad matchup and like people would agree beforehand to swap. And we did that many times. Like there's a clip of Spearshot like not getting a CS for like first 7 minutes, like just getting like constantly dope, you know. There's like a lot of these moments, and we still lost the game. It's a tactic. I don't mind it when it happens like super rarely on occasion. Obviously, I'm not a top laner. People are gonna say, "You've never faced it, never experienced it." Like, trust me, I know what it's like to be without CS, but it doesn't really matter as long as it's not like a prevailing tactic that you always use. I think it's kind of fine, but you need to create like some offset. You need something on the other side. You need something that has some gravitational pull that pulls away from it. And we'll discuss later like about potential solutions.
Need communication to do that, and famously, League doesn't really have that. So you would only see this in high-low solo queue games, if really there either. So these tactics create a big disconnect between the viewer and the game they're watching, because they can't really do this in their games, so they're basically watching something they cannot relate to. Riot has noticed this as well, and recently they rolled out a feature that basically removes lane swaps.
I don't buy this, by the way. I don't buy this. I don't buy the fact that Riot saw this happening in high elo and competitive, and they were like, our low elo friend cannot relate, hence we're going to change this. I don't buy that shit for a second. For a single second. I don't think Riot Games gives a single flying fuck about what low elo people think about the lane swap. I don't think they care, because like, why else would they have to experience the pop-up screens in their own games, even though they can't lane swap, and it happens in there like 99% like false positive, and you go in and like they're fighting in an invade, and it's like, get back to your lane, go back to your lane, you know, lane swap detected. You have this fucking inksock screen popping up. It's like behind the pictures you have monitors like watching you. People are there, like Riot Games like is in your house, like seeing the lane swap.
And it went horribly wrong. Riot released lane swap detection, which basically detects if somebody else is in your lane that's not supposed to be there, and gives you crazy debuffs for it. While detected, defending turret deals 1000% damage to minions. Defending turret and minions give gold and XP from the...
I've read this like 15 times. I still don't know these numbers or whatever the fuck it does. I just know it's like a no-no. Because it's like, this is the equivalent of an invisible wall in a single player game. It's like, we just want you to fuck off and don't even look there. Like, you know, there's like this shitty pixelated texture in the back, which might pique your interest, but trust us, there's fucking nothing there because it's an invisible wall. Do not go there, right? I don't know any of these. Like, none of this matters because, like, it's not so... They just clearly don't want you there.
kills to the nearest ally champion in the lane. Offending champions gain 50% less gold and XP from minions. This will linger for 20 seconds in the top lane and 6 seconds for mid. In top lane only, the defending turret will also deal 1000% damage to champions, and the defending champion has a 50% damage reduction under their turret. And this change has actually resulted in some funny clips.
Lane swap detected! Lane swap detected! Leave the area, bro! How long is this shit? How long is this on? I got no XP for those minions! Oh no. Bro, this lane swap detected just completely...
Yeah, like that. It's immersion breaking, and more so than like any of the punishment of experience or CS. It's more so like, what the fuck is this on my screen? I imagine that was the again case for like 99% of community seeing this. Like, fuck you! Like, get out of my screen! I'm playing the game. It just breaks your gameplay. $4,196.
And here's how the detection system works. From 130 to 330, if two enemy champions, both of whom don't have a jungle item, are in top, mid lane, or surrounding areas. If the team has 2 or more junglers, junglers will now be included in the check. Champions who are about to trigger lane swap detection will get a warning ping as well as a
like just looking at this makes me sick. How inelegant that you have to like, okay, so what if there are 2 junglers? What if people want to circumvent it because it doesn't work on junglers because junglers want to gank and you want to enable the possibility of a level 3 gank after 3 camps? So it's like, okay, what if enemies try to skip this and then go 2 smites and 2 junglers and have a roaming support who is also a jungler? Okay, now we have to do checks for junglers as well to punish those guys to dissuade them from doing that. It's like, it's so messy. It's so shit. God damn.
How to trigger lane swapping penalties. Champions who trigger lane swap detection will have a debuff. So basically, you will get this big-ass text on your screen that you are about to trigger the lane swap penalty. So this change does indeed deny traditional lane swapping.
This is like, you have a problem, it's like the flex tape guys, like, boom, just fucking slaps it, you know, flex seal. And it just patches the problem, and it just makes the entire thing ugly as hell.
But it also warps the game fundamentally. Like, you cannot invade enemy jungler as a support anymore. You cannot late invade as a team anymore. And it also completely removes playstyles from the game.
That's a lot of damage.
Did I say it denies lane swapping completely? Well, I meant to say that it actually doesn't remove lane swapping.
No, it doesn't, because people can just swap. People can just swap post the timer. Like, 3 minutes is like, it's not even 3 minutes. The game basically starts for like at 1:30, 1:50 in lane. And you have up until 3:30, so you can do 2-3 waves and just do rotation to exactly lanes that you want. You can still do your own tactics on the game and shuffle around. I guess that's the kind of point to remove that guessing game, but again, I'm saying there's better solutions to removal of the guessing game.
Lane swap rules. Alright, so put your top lane at bot together with your support. You put your bot lane at mid, alright? And then you put your mid lane at top, because obviously the matchups like Aurora, let's say you say Aurora top, into, let's say, a Jax or something, you're laning top, and then your top laner here is a tank, and then after the first wave, you support, you just lane here, you chill, you're not gonna get dove, you're chilling, and then your support goes into mid, because the rules and the restrictions are gone from mid lane at 250.
Oh, he's like, oh shit, he's doing the ladder. That's crazy, I didn't even think about that. He's doing the ladder because top and mid are, they're asymmetrical. So you can actually go to mid slightly earlier and then do that at a transitioning point to the top lane. Wow.
Yeah. You're lane swapping again.
So the detection system doesn't completely remove lane swap, and it can be abused. So what could Riot possibly do about this issue? Well, I asked my fellow content creators what they think about the new system, how it has affected them, and what could Riot do to fix this issue. First, Azzapp, the VelKoz god. The real problem with lane swap hard-coded solution is that it harms creativity for most players for the sake of competitive and spectator experience. Most people who come to my channel or watch videos were like, I've never seen this, why are they removing it? So hard, why is it a big deal? Why am I seeing Call of Duty out of combat zone bullshit in my game?
Yeah, this is so true, because I made videos on this, and the most prevailing opinion on the shorts was like, what the fuck? Like, what's a lane swap, you know? Because most people don't know it, don't give a shit. It doesn't impact them. It's like, why are we combating this invisible fucking force? Like, what are these weapons of mass destruction in the Middle East? Like, what is this bullshit? God damn it.
They must have
So
known
most
the
people don't
negatives
know
beforehand, but still chose to do
Okay, I'll let him finish then.
which means Riot is desperate, taking a shit solution which majority don't like for the sake of view maxing on competitive and protecting their main revenue stream. League without competitive dies within a year, so they take it very seriously.
Yeah, I firmly believe this. I don't think, as much as people want to say that Riot is stupid and they don't know, I'm pretty sure they know. I'm pretty sure they were well aware of the negatives and the pushback they're going to get from the community. And they still chose to do it. Which leads me to believe that they're desperate. Like, that's the only conclusion I can come out with. So they're super desperate to fix the competitive so they don't sink the viewership and they can keep the game alive. Because this game rests on the shoulders of the giant that is the competitive scene. So they live off of the esport. So if they lose like 10% viewership on that only, that's a massive problem. And it could be more. Like, I don't know the stats, but we don't have the access to their internal stats because how the tournaments are organized every year is slightly different. But yeah.
I personally dislike the solution, and as a coder, I want to vomit seeing so many hard-coded lines about percentage, bonus XP, damage, defense, etc. Nobody will remember these numbers.
Yep.
They are not intuitive and are super disruptive. Fighting early near tower, triggering a pop-up on your screen makes me sick. And he's right, like, League has become this game filled with pop-ups. Like, now we have the
I remember this meme.
spawning pop-up, Grub spawning pop-up, now Attacan spawning pop-up, and also now the lane swap.
You're just requesting gank $5. Oh, I love this meme, dude. It's so funny.
Triggered pop-up. Like, there's just too many UI changes that people are gonna get confused about. That being said, I'm yet to find a solid modular solution to the lane swap conundrum. Okay, Azzapp, I'm so sorry. Please don't use big words. I don't know what they mean. I didn't see any good alternatives, and the fact is that people will always find ways to play the game in ways that are not intended. Pause, etc.
Yeah, this is also a point that as much as people complain and about this, I'm still yet to see like solid solutions. I honestly don't know. I didn't really think about it until you asked me for this, and then I like started writing, and as I wrote, I kind of started like thinking a bit about it. And recently we figured out like the clairvoyance thing that you can potentially use for a gathering tool early on to combat the worst, most egregious part of the lane swap, which is the tactics and guessing in early game. So you can kind of fight that. You can kind of combat that. That could be an interesting thing to deal with. Okay, that's a new angle. I also presented a different solution I told him. We'll see here, I think.
One
maybe.
interesting solution would be to spawn Dragon earlier and make him scale with numbers of players on the bottom side, making him easy to take for the non-swapping team if they are not matched. Not a huge swing of power, but it would promote more tactics around it. The trick in my mind is to create these give and take situations instead of outright blocking certain plays in entirety.
Yeah, this is essentially the idea that, like, this is the angle that you want to approach it. Like, you never go the first solution like block a play. That's never your first solution. Your first solution should be around give and take. You definitely want to create this tactical sort of situation to just allow pro players to find more angles how to fight it. Let them figure out how to counter it. You just kind of like play the puppeteer and add more stuff or more interesting ideas. I think because Dragon spawns just slightly before the first grubs, you can spawn it a lot earlier. And like, here's another thing. You can make the first dragon twice the value. And then the other dragons are like stacking. you can do that. So the team that doesn't swap is gonna get the first dragon, which means they get the value. That would make like Grub second rate objective. Now all of these have like a lot of drawbacks, and obviously I didn't think about all of them. Like when you think about the drawbacks, you will find some problems with it. And I'd like to hear your solutions. Like, what do you guys think would be a solid solution that has the least amount of drawbacks, but it's interesting, right? The platings are a solid solution already. That the platings in the bot lane are easier to take, but it doesn't outvalue the benefits of the lane swapping team just getting 2 solid lanes for them, right? It just doesn't do that because they get to set their own pace of the game. I don't know, on Bronze 4, it doesn't matter. Like, you can think about the game. You can think about the game, like, as a developer or, like, a player, like, what would the solution be that's elegant? But I think it should be somewhere along the lines of rewarding playing, rewarding something on the map, whether it's, like, plates, bottom tower, first dragon, or the first dragon gives you better scaling if you collect more of them. Or here I suggested, like, making the bottom side dragon scale with a number of players. That would make dragons super easy to take. That's like the second version of not making the dragons stronger, but making them easier, which means it takes less time. So if you're able to pick up the dragon early, you might be able to contest the grubs as well. So the non-lane swapping team could take the dragon quickly, and they could re-rotate if they want to, and they can contest the grub, so making it less of a trade, and they can try to get greedy and play double objective. That's an interesting solution. I'm not sure how viable. Again, like all of these things, they could have potential drawbacks that I didn't think about, because all these things you really got to brainstorm and figure out. So we really got to think about this. Maybe make the rules better coded into the game, and the person assigned support AD carry gets 100% XP and gold only from bot tower. Again, that's a hard-coded solution, which harms. It really, really harms the rest of the game and the creativity. There's also another solution, making the only bot wave shareable of experience and give like full yield of experience if you share only the bot wave, right? So if you're sharing the top wave, you'll be behind in experience. That is a solution, but when you think about the drawbacks, you will run quickly into the point that you're killing roaming, because a roaming support will almost always get punished, because if I roam mid and make a good play, I kill the mid laner, we're sharing experience, and my mid laner is losing his fucking shit, and we're behind horribly, even though I made a good play and killed mid, right? So you really got to think about these drawbacks. And it's not an easy solution. I cannot stress this enough. This is not an easy solution. But we're all working here for free. We're not being paid like... I think the basic job in Riot is like 140k a year or something like that. So there's some seniors who are well fucking paid that they really should shake their heads and try to come up with a solid solution instead of just blocking plays. And yeah, I'd like to see more tactics promoted instead of just blocking stuff.
And that is a very interesting way to look at fixing the lane swaps. And then we actually have a player who's been the most vocal about this change because it really affects his playstyle.
Wait, who's that?
Bardinette, the roaming Bard guy. TLDR, if you don't know who Bardinette is, he's an infamous top lane player who really doesn't like to be in top lane. Whatever your perception of him is, he has risen to respectable ranks doing something unique. Kind of like how Baus became famous for his Sion, min-maxing death timers for gold. Anyways, I asked...
I'm kind of conflicted. I'm not a Bardinette hater. I know a lot of people fucking hate his guts in solo queue. I don't mind him doing his like Bard thing, even though I think it's an inefficient strategy, and it's like it only abuses the lack of coherence in solo queue and synergy because people just don't play the game correctly tactically because they're lazy. They just play like by default autopilot. That's kind of why he abuses and cheeses and gets to the higher rank. I don't think it's an efficient strategy. On the other hand, like, I fucking hate Bard players. They're inflated as shit, because Bard is broken for years, but he's only allowed to be broken because he's such a niche champ and nobody will touch him with a stick, because he's so different from other champs. And I think it's super broken. And it has been for such a long time, and now with the new electrocute, it can basically, like, out-trade anyone. I think if you go to Twitter and just, like, click on Lazarus tweets, you'll find, like, many situations where he just duels AD carries, misses skill shots, and still one-shots AD carries, beats them in a 1v1. I hate Bard. But anyway, I still don't like this thing. I still don't like the stupid fucking lane swap.
Asked him on stream how he felt about these changes.
Yeah, the lane swap f***ed me over. It's not over. Okay, I'm gonna go into detail.
Wait, what does he do now?
My early game plan is usually invading enemy top jungle. The red buff counts as mid lane. So if I invade red buff, my mid laner gets cucked, even though I'm 3 screens away. That's not even specific to me, but you cannot invade the top side.
Bro, Riot Games trying to get death threats on Bardinette. He was already like on thin ice, and now making his mid laner lose experience as well. Unlucky, man. Let's go.
As a support anymore, because you have to, if you want to go back to bot lane, you have to go through mid. One thing, it's frustrating for us to have to deal with them nerfing creative playstyles. But I don't think that that's not the intent, right? It's just that it's for the better good, right? The biggest part about it is that it's not only a nerf, it's a systemic change that is invisible, and you have to circumvent it by dodging the invisible wall that exists only in the early games. It's horrible. It doesn't feel good. One thing that
I caught myself literally like roaming to mid. Now this is when it was, I think, 3:30 or like some number. But like basically, if you play bot early fight and you end up level 2 on a recall or a respawn, like let's say you got 2 for 1 or 1 for 1, or you just died or you just reset. If you're level 2, you cannot go mid. And usually the norm is when you go as a support and you get a recall on level 2, you go mid, you appear mid. And I've done that, and it's like, oh, pop up. But also I've done things where you just kind of wait around. If you, let's say you're leaving the base at 3 minutes, then you go out there and you wait like 10 seconds in the background, and you can come in exactly at 3:30 because people don't expect it. It's such a cheesy, stupid thing. Like the players are like, oh, I'm safe. I'm a mid laner. I'm safe from any ganks by supports in early game because reasons and magic and walls, you know. But then a support appears exactly as it's expiring. So I've cheesed a few kills like that. I don't know. It's just, I don't think that should be a tactic. I don't think you should be playing around the fucking invisible barrier going down.
They could do is that the current changes are kind of smart, honestly. But they need to lower the thing. I would completely remove the gold and XP debuff from mid lane. Because right now, when you trigger the thing mid, you're not laning mid. You're just walking through the fucking jungle, or you invaded and you have to go back bot. It's stuff like that, you know. This is not correct. Not good.
I also interviewed him later on, so he could be more specific in his answers.
I understand Riot's sentiment. I know where they're coming from with this, because they want to fix pro play and lane swap being way too prevalent. But at the same time, they also want the game that the people play and the game that the people are playing on scene to be the same. So that's why they didn't make a rule to just forbid pro players from lane swapping, which would have been the cleanest version. But I do get it where they come from. This also impacts people who play differently without lane swapping.
Yeah.
The thing is, they say again and again that they're thankful for people using innovative strategies because it prevents the game from being stale and etc. At the same time, they don't cater to us at all here, because lots of us are impacted, and in a way that doesn't feel good at all, because it's not just a nerf. It's a nerf where you have to circumvent artificial, invisible rules. The biggest issue, I think, is that since they wanted lane swap to be completely gone, they went way overboard.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Hammered that in like big time. If I invade the red buff level 1 on my own, the zone extends so far off that if I'm at red buff, it considers.
Okay, I think from a design standpoint, they always wanted they wanted to start with like a bigger one instead of a smaller one, and there's a clever reason for that. Because if you make a change and you add like this like circle that annoys everybody, and it still fails to fix the problem in competitive, you are just hailed as a terrible dev, and people stop trusting your game entirely. But if you start with a bigger one, and then you can only get better from there, because you figure out, like on your data tracking, like in the logs, you figure out mostly it was triggered there instead of there, so you can kind of narrow it down and then make it better for players. It's a lot better perception-wise, right? Because you don't have to backtrack your mistake. You just kind of like help people play the game more and more, you know? I don't know. That's one of the reasons they did it like this.
Even though I'm 4 screens away, 4,000 units away from being even able to get experience from mid. But my mid laner will get half experience, half of gold, just because I'm fighting the enemy jungle on red. And so invading level 1 is not an option for me now anymore. Which you could argue is good for the game, maybe not. But the thing is, that's not what their aim was for them.
Do you think the detection system otherwise is good, but it just needs like tweaks in it?
No.
Exactly. I think the system is the best they could come up with, and I cannot think of a better solution at all. Yeah. For me, the
That's
fix.
very honest, because like majority of people have seen nobody like sent a solid answer on it. They just say like it's shit, and I understand that. Like the people are not paid to find solutions, right? Like they're there to give feedback and how they feel about the game. Like like whatever people think, you're not supposed to give solutions to Riot. People are like, oh, fix the game by buffing my champ by 30%. That's usually what it reduces to when people give assistance to Riot Games. How do they design the game? You're supposed to give your feeling. You're supposed to put your feeling into words and say why your champion feels bad, and then Riot's going to come up with a solution how to fix it. People are not paid, so I don't blame people for not coming up with solutions. They're not paid to fucking fix it, right? This is what the developers are for. This is what they're doing here.
Like to see is
Respect
removing
this.
completely the gold and XP debuff for mid laners. When people trigger this in mid lane, they're never trying to lane swap. They're just pathing through mid because it's in the middle of the map. If you want to cross side from one side to the other, you have to go through mid. So and sometimes there's a fiesta in top side, and people have to go back to bot lane, and now they cannot go through mid because there's an invisible wall of lava. So you have to recall and walk through the lane. It doesn't feel good.
And then maybe like the area that it affects.
Yeah,
in top
exactly.
lane.
The other big thing is reducing the area. They have to look at it again because I don't know. I'm biased, right? So
I mean, yeah.
but I think I should be allowed to go fight the enemy jungler level 1 on his raptors without taking my mid laner's XP for nothing. You know?
Yeah, that
True,
is
I
true.
agree.
Like, I think it does like completely remove like
You
the
might dodge
aspect
by
of the
accident?
game,
No.
like the system basically like you
Yeah,
cannot
it
never
equate
dodge.
red buff, blue buff anymore as like
It's
two
those who know.
It goes against innovation. And
Yeah, it does.
Lane swapping being
Those who
honest
know.
is probably for the best. I agree.
Yeah.
But as a player, my sentiment is that this does not feel good.
So basically, the players this affects aren't really mad about the change because they know lane swaps are something Riot needs to tackle. I think their solution to lane swaps is pretty good if they do tweak the areas where it affects and the gold XP reduction you receive in mid lane.
I would not call it pretty good. I would say it's effective, but I don't think it's good. You can come up with a lot of effective solutions that are not good solutions. So that's the slight difference there. Like I don't think like those equal each other. Effective equals good.
This lane swap detection system, there is a possibility lane swaps aren't completely gone, as Yamato said. So we will most likely return to this topic when teams and players figure out what they can do and what they cannot do. So all in all, their solution isn't the best, but with a few small tweaks, it is possible that this could put an end to lane swaps for good. But what do you guys think about this lane swap detection system? Do you maybe have any better ideas?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm questioning. I want to see if people have any like solutions. If people have any answers, something that can actually fix it. Can you guys come up with better solutions than me? I'm curious. Like I know you're not paid. I'm not paid to think about this. We're just kind of doing it as a thought exercise. Do you have any ideas?